After the fall of man in paradise, there are things that I kept noticing that God has done all the way to the time that Jesus Christ came. So his goal after the fall of man was to get man reconciled back to him. Okay, he sort of implemented certain strategies to bring humanity back, all right, to himself, to a point where he wiped out almost the entire human race just to get people back to himself again. But all those strategies were not yielding the results that they were intended for. He destroyed cities, he made people, he swallowed people, and he did so many miracles to just convert people and to have people just believe and accept that yes, this is where we ought to be. But that never happened. And the goal never changed, only strategies would change. So the first strategy of wiping out the entire humanity was like, nope, I'm never doing this again. And he made a promise with Noah and said, you know what, this thing will never happen again. And for me to keep my promise, you will always see a rainbow. And whenever you see that, it should be a reminder that this is what the Lord had promised. And a number of strategies came in, and we see with the people of Israel, where he performed the most miracles with those people, like a number of them. But even those miracles, they were not enough to convert people back to himself. Until he was like, you know what, I think the only strategy now that is going to work is for me to go down there, is for me to send my only son to die for them, and to die for them as a sacrifice, because all these other sacrifices were not enough, all right, to meet the conditions for us to be reconciled back to God. So what he did, he sent his son, and that was the final strategy that he sent. And that final strategy was a permanent one. Then he said, to everyone that believes on his name shall be saved. And that was the only condition that that strategy had. So when you believe that Jesus is Lord and accept him in your heart, then you fulfill the condition that he had set for this strategy. Now, there are people who hold on to a way of thinking or a strategy so much that no matter what you tell them, they will say, this is the only way that I know is going to work. But I don't believe so. Strategies can change. The goal can remain constant. When God's goal was to have his people reconciled back to him, and yet strategies over the years kept on changing until he reached a final strategy that worked for all humanity. And for us people, I'll give an example of, you're going to a city and the only route that you know to get there is blocked. So there is no way that you can use that route. So there are two options there for you to go back or to think of other ways to get to your destination. So your destination is not changing. How you get there is what is changing. So how you get there is strategy. Now, for many people, they don't understand that. They don't understand the strategies can change. How you get to the goal changes. And just because how you get to the goal seems to be fading, it doesn't mean that you are fading. It's just how you are getting to that goal. So that is something that we ought to understand. How you get to the destination doesn't mean that just because you find a way that is blocked, Doesn't mean that you have failed. Doesn't mean that you're a failure. It's just how you are getting to that goal is what is not working in the moment. All right. All you have to do is to change your mindset. Is okay. This thing that I'm doing is not giving me the results that I want. So you don't change the results that you want. You change how to get the results. All right. So if one way is failing, you just find other ways to succeed at your goal. And until you find that strategy that is going to bring you the more success, you must keep on going and you must keep on trying. And there is another scripture in the Bible that I love so much, is the parable of the sower. So the parable of the sower tells of how this farmer begins to sow seeds in different places. And each place that he had sown yielded different results. All right, some brought forth 30-fold, 60, and 100-fold. And that's strategy. All right, then that's a strategy that we can implement. Sometimes things work out, sometimes they don't, but it doesn't mean that we must stop pursuing, we must stop going for the things that we want. All right, I wish you nothing but the very best. Do not change the goal, change the strategy, and everything is going to work out.